Today on Inside Utah Politics, charges dropped. The case against the first medical cannabis user to be prosecuted since the new law took effect has been dismissed. Now advocates are calling for compassion. Plus, the U.S. Supreme Court ends the legal battle over SB 54, our state's controversial election law. But is the fight within the Utah GOP over? Our panel weighs in.
Time now for Inside Utah Politics.
Thanks so much for joining us for Inside Utah Politics. I'm Glenn Mills. Medical marijuana advocates are calling on prosecutors across the state to act reasonably as they deal with cases under the new state law. The Utah Patients Coalition in Libertas, Utah, coming together at the Capitol during the week to draw attention to some legal issues they are seeing. One case they are highlighting is Jason Harris. He was pulled over about a month after Prop 2 passed. He wasn't in full compliance with the Utah Medical Cannabis Act, but his legal team argued it was an honest and minor mistake. On Tuesday, the city of Lehi and the court agreeing to drop 3 drug charges without prejudice. Harris is here along with DJ Shentz of the Utah Patients Coalition to talk more about these issues and what's being done about it. Gentlemen, great to have you with us. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks, Glenn.
Thanks for having us, Glenn.
Jason, let's start with you. This arrest, how did it impact your life at the time?
The Cliff's Notes were it was shock, it was acceptance that it had happened. I was embarrassed that I was handcuffed in front of my neighbors. That was difficult. It was during kind of the rush hour of getting kids to school, and being pulled out and put in handcuffs was hard.
So this happened in front of neighbors, people you go to church with. And what kind of an impact did that have on you?
I felt small. I felt like the other, like it was just a real case of othering. I was shocked that it happened. I thought that it couldn't anymore.
Because you've been using medical cannabis, and after the proposition passed, you thought you were safe.
I did.
In carrying the product. Okay. DJ.
Yes.
You guys, you already knew Jason before, but you learned of this case, and what steps were taken after that?
So Jason was actually one of our most, prolific advocates during Proposition 2. He was on NPR. He was on numerous news channels. Whenever we'd get a request for some, a well-spoken, handsome guy to represent the movement, he was one of our first people that we'd refer the media to. And so he was very much upfront and open about his use of cannabis before Proposition 2 passed. Now, once this case started developing, Jason had called me. We'd been friends for over 20 years, Jason and I, and he alerted me to the situation. It was very worrisome for us. Now, law enforcement does have the option of arresting whomever they find with cannabis. The burden of proof of proving your innocence is actually on the defense, on the patient, to prove that I am a medical patient. What we're seeing, though, is that during this interim period of time, when patients cannot get cards, when there are no dispensaries or medical pharmacies open that distribute cannabis, there needs to be a little bit of flexibility. So knowing Jason's case and knowing Jason, it was a great case for us to jump in and not set a legal precedent, but what we wanted to do was set an application precedent of how these different prosecuting attorneys, how these different law enforcement officials would actually apply the law. And we hope that this case sets a clear precedent for that.
Okay, we'll get into more of the strategy here in a minute, including the fact that this is a very complicated law, and that's what a lot of this boiled down to. Jason, I should have asked, explain to us why you use medical cannabis and what it does for you.
Sure. So I'll spare you all the details, but ultimately it assists me with what I have in my head. I've got a cystic tumor that's shunted, and it causes migraines. I hadn't had a migraine since I'd started taking cannabis. It's the only medication that actually, they went away, and they didn't come back until it was taken away from me.
DJ, the case was never about he was in full compliance with the law. It was about, like I said, this is a big law, lots of pages.
Yep.
Patients are getting used to it. Prosecutors are getting used to it. So the strategy that was taken to the prosecutor and the court was what?
Well, our strategy was to push this forward as far as we could. Luckily, we had Jason who said, look, I'm not going to accept a plea deal. We're going to either take this to a jury trial or get a full dismissal. And those were our options. We weren't going to take a plea. We were going to take this to a jury, or we were going to get a full dismissal. Because at the end of the day, he and we don't feel like he's a criminal. We feel he's a medical patient, particularly with Prop 2 passing and HB 3001 now in effect. Despite some minor nuances and technicalities, the word of the day, if I could, and we can get it like in glitter, would be discretion. And we hope that law enforcement officers and prosecuting attorneys in the state will follow the lead of Lehigh and use discretion when they're dealing with these medical cannabis patients.
Let's dig into that a little more, because now you have become painfully aware of how you were not in compliance with the law. Mm-hmm. What was it that day you were arrested that you were not complying with?
Well,
would you like me?
When it gets into these details, honestly, I don't fully understand them. I don't even know what a blister pack actually looks like. Yet it's something that's required, but that's also part of the problem.
Yeah. So where he ran, I guess, not in perfect compliance was he didn't have his raw flower in blister packs, which would be similar to like the dentine gum packages. That's one of the requirements with our current medical cannabis program, is that it's in these blister packs. Now, blister packs don't exist in the state, and they don't exist anywhere. You know, nobody sells cannabis in blister packs. It's going to be one of the unique features about the Utah law. So we saw this. Jason was definitely within the spirit of the law. Not every aspect of the law currently can be fulfilled because there just aren't blister packs in the state. So that's where we went in with an approach of let's be reasonable, let's be rational, and let's use some discretion in this case, and I think Lehigh City did a great job of setting a good standard for that.
So in the end, it worked out for you. Your case was dropped. Even the speeding ticket that you were initially pulled over for.
And guilty of.
Yeah, you have said that all along, was dropped. What was your thought at that point? And what's your message to those who took a look at your case and decided we're going to drop these charges?
Well, I have concerns. I had a team. I had 2 attorneys. I had DJ. I'm concerned about the citizen that doesn't have that.
And Glenn, interesting enough, since our press conference on Tuesday, or Wednesday? Wednesday. We've got numerous messages of people that are in a similar situation, messaging us like, wow, you know, can we get some help as well? We're in a similar situation. So Jason's case is not unique. It was unique that he was willing to push it to the extent of, I'm going to go to jury trial. I'm not going to take a plea.
Right.
And he's a very great guy, and he was a medical patient with a pre-existing condition and a doctor's letter. And so it worked out well, where the theme that we can really hammer home is that the system worked. When the burden of proof was on him to prove he's a medical patient, he was able to, and the case was dropped. We have a functioning medical cannabis program here in the state, one that we can be proud of, and we're excited that we were able to at least test the waters to see if it would work, and it did. Okay,
we're running out of time here, but I want to make a few points. There are bills going through the legislature right now to clean up some of these fixes you talk about, but also, obviously, there's a need to educate patients on the law and how it applies to them as well. What's being done for that?
Well, one thing that we've done with the Utah Patients Coalition is we put together a memo, a draft memo, and a letter to doctors. Basically, the memo explains the details of the law to a certain extent and what precautions you need to take as a patient. We've also put together a boilerplate letter for doctors. So part of the program is that you have to have a doctor's letter and a pre-existing relationship with your doctor saying that you discuss cannabis and that it could be a viable option for you.
All right.
So we put together a boilerplate letter for that. That's at www.utahpatients.org, and you can download that and take it to your doctor, and hopefully they'll participate.
All right, gentlemen, wish we had more time, but unfortunately it has come to an end. Thanks for being here with us this morning. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Glenn.
Still to come, a bill to allow for stronger beer in Utah fizzles out in a House committee. What impact will taking no action have on our state? Our panel will be debating that. But first, we're down to the final days of the Utah legislative session. The ACLU of Utah is here to discuss its top priorities. Stay with us.